talk Washington Commanders football on the Our Lads Football Network. And if we talk Washington Commanders, matter of fact, I believe this is the first time. I know it's the first time. I don't even have to say believe. This is the first time we're going to ever talk Washington Commanders football. I think we've talked some Washington football team football, but it's been a while since we've talked Washington Redskins / football team / Commanders. And that means Ken Meringolo from First Amendment Sports is back. How's it going, Ken?
What's up, Greg? And leave some space at the end because we're going to get a new name probably within the next year.
Really? That's awesome.
Yep.
Get a better name. I like it. It's because, you know the worst name is that Cleveland Indians team name. That is awful.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be an Indians fan, and they do that to me. It's embarrassing.
I mean, at least they've had a name for more than 12 months. We're on our third name in
musical
in
names.
Years.
Yeah. Well, what do you want?
I always had two. I liked Renegades way long ago because I wanted to be able to keep the curly R.
That's better.
Past that, I think we used to have a team here, an indoor soccer team called the Washington Warthogs, and they've been
Warthogs.
Warthogs, yeah, they've been defunct forever. Buy the brand, the patent, the trademark, whatever it is. Call us the Warthogs, and everyone can say, and everyone can call us the Hogs.
Has there been like local newspaper had one of those polls?
Yeah, in fact, when at Hogs Haven, we partner with the Washington Post to do one of those, and right before the first name change, and I pushed Renegades hard, and I got a lot of love. But Red Tails ended up being one of the most popular Washington, suggestions from the fan base, the Tuskegee Airmen, and
yeah. I
thought, and you know what, Warthog, this is just I'm so pushing my thing. The Warthog, the A-10 tank buster that flew over, Iraqi freedom and Desert Storm that flies low and busts up tanks. That's called the Warthog. And they're done up, they're painted up nice, and we're in Washington. Get a couple of those. They just retired those planes, put them around the stadium, fire up the engines when we score a touchdown. I don't know. Just throwing out ideas.
Yeah. But you know what? It probably sounds too conservative, though. And it's the exact opposite of what they're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
So, but no, it's all much better though than Commanders. All much better.
Yes, without a doubt, Commanders will be gone.
Where did they even come up with Commanders? By the way, how did that? Why did they choose that name?
So they claimed it was the result of a years-long marketing effort. You can't believe anything these people said. Ever.
All the names that you just said are better.
All of them. Red Wolves, I would even take better. But either way. What happened was every time the former owner found himself in hot water, they came up with a quick thing. The Washington football team, when they changed the name to Washington football team, there was no plan to do that. That was when Dan Snyder first started getting, there was some really big time bombshells getting dropped. And how do I know that they hadn't made any plans to change it? Because all the gear for training camp and for the summer that said Washington, everything had already been delivered to Redskins Park. This Washington football team was an afterthought. It was, hey, we got to create some kind of distraction. And then when they finally got to Commanders, who knows? Because no one liked it. They claimed that it was sourced from the fans, and it was a bunch of crap.
Yeah, typical. But hey, that guy's gone.
That guy's going. And you know what? If you or I had named them the Commanders, I think there'd be a lot more people willing to be, to grow to love it.
True.
But there's no one's interested in growing to love anything, that guy did.
True. And so does that mean that they could actually make it 2024 they'll have a new name?
I'm telling you that there'll be a new team name and brand for not this season, but the next. I believe that's true. I believe that's true.
Yeah, sooner the better. But okay, so the wish has finally come. Yeah. It's so important. I know the feeling. It's everybody can talk about coaches and GMs, but the fact is, it all starts at ownership. And if you don't have, if you have a very incompetent owner, where somebody that just doesn't know, a distraction, or both.
Yep.
You can't win. You just can't. And now that is gone. Now, we won't see the effects, of course, until because you tell me, what's the next step as far as what do you think is going to happen? Is this going to be one of those years that there's play it out, but then once the year's over and you talk about the name change, do you think we're going to have just a huge amount of change within this organization, including, and again, who knows if they win the division, all that stuff. But if they do a lot better than they're supposed to do, that could change. But do you think that chances are we're going to see just major changes, coach, GM, name?
So first and foremost, I came to start covering this team for the most part in the heart of the Dan Snyder era, and which is just
that's wonderful.
I could have been
what a wonderful time.
Well, I could have. I was like, why wasn't I born early? I could have been in the '80s. I could have had Joe Gibbs and the Hogs. And one of my refrains was always, if there's dysfunction from Monday through Saturday, dysfunction is going to show up on Sunday. And we knew about the dysfunction from Monday through Saturday, and we saw it between the whistles on Sunday. So job one is get your ship right from Monday through Saturday. I think that's for step one. I think they can get that done because they're not going to rock the football side of the boat at all at this point in time. And there's people who would be on the French Revolution guillotine right now if it was up to me. But it's not Ron Rivera or any of the coaches. It's front office folks. I think that there's the beauty of this whole situation is that we don't just get a new owner and we don't just get rid of a bad guy. We got like 3 or 4 guys signed beyond 3 seasons on this roster. We have almost $80 to $90 million available in salary cap space next year. We're top 5, top 7
next year. I'm telling you, they're going to set it all up next year.
But we don't have a lot of big contracts either. We have our money invested in defensive linemen, wide receivers.
Who's locked in? Who's locked in for the next few years?
Deron Payne, Terry McLaurin. I believe the right guard, Andrew Wiley, if I'm not mistaken. And, Jonathan Allen's for the next 3 years. And I think Emmanuel Forbes, our rookie, I think he gets a 4-year deal, right? Coming out of the first round. Okay. So that's it. So, you look at how young we are. You look at the ability we have to really put people in place around whatever becomes the core of this team, whoever comes through and shows up. And I think, there's opportunities in the offseason for you to address the on the field stuff. I think Ron Rivera, we did our show at the beginning of last season, and it was like, he's gone. This guy is gone. He's done. This is it. He played the string, and this is how it goes in the Dan Snyder world. Once Snyder was kind of removed from the day-to-day, even though Tanya Snyder was going to meetings and doing all this stuff, whatever that was, Ron Rivera was in charge. And no matter what facet of the organization, it seemed like Ron Rivera was making calls. And so he was being the guy. He had the final say over just about everything from a football side of the house, even above like the president and all the people in the front office. So I can see a future for him on that side of the house for us
in the organization.
Yeah. So if but I can also, he's a coach. He's a former player and he's a coach. If we play well, they're going to keep him. If we need to make changes, I think he moves from the sidelines and on in. And it's with the Eric Bieniemy pickup at offensive coordinator, we're incentivized as an organization to do well by Eric Bieniemy, to make him as good of a coach as he can be, if not for us, for someone else. If he leaves here in 2 years, we get a high draft pick. The Patriots and the 49ers and the Eagles and the best teams right now in the league, the teams that have been good for a while, they're maximizing those kinds of league rules. You develop coaches and you get them jobs and you make them good for us first.
Yeah.
But if they can get other jobs, great. So those are the kind of changes. But just to give you one name, Jason Wright, the president, who's been the president under Dan Snyder, he would already be out of the building. They're saying they're not going to fire him in the short term, and he's out there saying all the things to make people excited about Redskins football or Commanders football. And but I'm done. He's Snyder's yes man. He was out front in some really ugly moments over the last 2 years, the Sean Taylor stuff, notably, and you can't be president of that kind of ship and keep your job.
It has to be cleaned house. It has to.
Yep.
Anybody that has those types of ties have got to go. I mean, you just have to start from scratch. So the owner, tell us about, what do you think about who will be running the franchise, and what kind of faith do you have that it's going to get done right?
Yeah. So Greg, I have been so outspokenly miserable for the last 20 years with Dan Snyder. I don't want to put that on Josh Harris. My expectations for him have to be more than just like, don't be Dan Snyder. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And he does get a huge pass and a long leash, but he's a local guy. He did well, and he's coming home, so to speak, which again is part of the story we had 25 years ago.
How did he make his money?
What's that?
How did he make his money?
Funds, insurance, and how do billionaires make billion? I think they put a couple $100 million in a dark room and play some Barry White, and next thing you know, it's like.
So it's not like he owns Burger King or anything like that. He's just a typical. Okay.
He's probably one of those guys that owns part of everything that we don't even know, the air we breathe. But he's got to come in, and one thing I know about him that's well known about him is you have a meeting with him, you go in and you present to him, you talk about business with him. You better know what you're talking about. He requires analysis, he requires data, he requires numbers. He's a noted listener. He'll listen to it all, but he won't suffer fools. So you can't talk your way past this guy. So I like that about him, and I also think he strikes me as the kind of guy who is going to put people who know what they're doing in a place to do their jobs. That's
look. It sounds to me, and again, if he is a nice guy to get along with, if word spreads that he's going to be a really good owner and he's going to do what it takes, then this becomes one of those really good opportunities. They don't come along very often, and especially the location of the franchise. And, if you get yourself a rising general manager or a rising head coach, if he's not already on the team, then all of a sudden, like you said, you've got some money, you can spend it properly, bring in guys, and before you know it, it can be done quickly, and we know that it's the NFL. It shouldn't take too long.
And Greg, the thing about where you stack up in the NFL vis-a-vis free agency or player movement or top tier player movement, because a lot of times that'll happen via a trade or a sign and trade or where those guys ultimately dictate where they go. Like when Matt Stafford was available, he was going to the Rams, and he got himself there. So every year you have a player or two like that who would make just about any team they went to better, as long as they didn't have Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or whatever. But those kinds of players don't want to come to places like Washington over the last 5 years,
of course,
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah,
and not the least of which was our front office. Besides the shenanigans everywhere else, they were voted by agents and players as the least trustworthy group. That was under Bruce Allen. And so it's like you got to create a place that people want to come, not just because you're going to pay them money, but because you want them to want to come here.
Yeah.
And so we haven't, we got it. That's another step. Become a place where someone wants to come play that you need.
And it's right there for the taking. So that's the exciting part. And now that look, it's, as as a fan, you've been through the hard years. It's still a little bit away, but like I said, I got to imagine next year is going to be the off season for the franchise to just change everything and get it going. Again, unless Ron Rivera does such a great job that you have to bring him back. Other than that, just
we were almost in the playoffs last year. You know what I mean? Like we went down the stretch with a chance to make the playoffs. And, it's a little bit, I'm not trying to, cover you in Kool-Aid from through the screen here, but, the NFC East has been trading champions for years and years and years. We have almost never had back-to-back champions. And in fact, for a while, there was every 4 years, every single team won one. And that wasn't the case as of 2 years ago. So
did the Eagles win back-to-back?
I think the Eagles won.
Or was it the
Eagles
Cowboys and then the Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles won this year.
Was it 2 years in a row they won? Or because I remember, like you said, they had that long streak of not having the same champion, and
it was
I
like
don't
8
know.
years in a row. And the Eagles deserve their due, and they're a strong team. But the Giants and Cowboys aren't worlds ahead. And I'm sure we'll get into it. But quarterback play is where it's at, and we have unproven quarterback under center. That's going to dictate a ton. But our defense is good enough to be a top 5 defense in the league. That's what they've been, and it'll be determined whether our offense can score with Eric Bieniemy.
I remember last year, there were several times, especially in the mid-season, where it was like, hey, man, what's going on in Washington?
Yeah.
This team is for real. This is a competitive football team. But, when you just don't have the talent, and now you throw another game into the season, it's just the longer the season goes, the warts kind of get exposed and so forth.
Sure.
But, yeah, they did definitely make it. They made a run for it. And they were there to the end with a chance for the playoffs. So we'll see whether or not they can continue that. Either way, let's start at offense, because the normal person, especially if it doesn't have a lot of college football background, is going to immediately, and I've already, anytime I've mentioned Washington to somebody else, that when we're talking about, especially around the draft and things of that nature, there's just no way Sam Howell. This is just ridiculous. Sure. He's not really going to be the quarterback. That's not really going to happen.
He's the guy.
And what I tell them is, look, before his last year in North Carolina, I know it didn't go well, but the year before, I really liked him. I thought he looked awesome. Yeah, he had the offense was humming. And you saw a little bit. I know he doesn't have the size, but you saw a little bit of. He could be that guy that does that maybe doesn't have the size that can actually make things happen.
Sure.
What really kind of put a cautionary sign, though, was how poorly he looked in the Senior Bowl. He just looked really bad.
That cost him some money.
And I thought one of two things. Okay, well, is he? Maybe I'm seeing something. Maybe all those critics were right. Maybe I'm wrong. Or what most likely happened is, you come, it's a different system, these things happen. You're being taught to do this, that, the other thing. You've never done maybe some of those things, and you're just completely, your head spinning, and it's not going to look good.
I think he was hurt, Greg.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, he ran his butt off his senior year. He got the crap beat out of him.
He did.
And I feel like he thought he had to play in that game to help himself out. He lost De'Ami Brown and Javonte Williams and Michael Carter and all those guys. So. Yep. His senior year, it was not pretty. He was running for his life.
It was sort of like, and again, I'm not in any way comparing him to Dan Marino, but sort of like, and I'm trying to think who else, because there's somebody else I have in mind too, but a quarterback that had a really good, say, junior year, came back for his senior year, all his talent left, and that's what happened to Marino. All his talent left, and he didn't have the year everybody thought he didn't look the same. And then he had the pot thing, but that's kind of what happened to Howell. As we know, all his talent left, and he just looked different. But look, the fact is, what I'm trying to say is if this team believes in him, then they're now seeing what I kind of felt all along, that this kid has talent. Yeah. Now let's go ahead and see. Why not let him play? What are you going to play, Jacoby Brissett? What the heck is that going to accomplish?
No, so that'll accomplish your offseason program that you were talking about before. If he plays quarterback, Sam Howell, I'm not going to be the guy who blows the smoke up, people's skirts about, his junior year, and he would have been number 1 overall. He got into one game last year. He played against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys had something to play for, and he played well, and our team played well. We won a game that I cared about winning, and still he's a complete unknown. He has to come in and show it. But the thing about him that stands out to me is he's that guy you show up to, like, to play pickup basketball with your buddies, and he picks you up full court, and he never leaves you alone. And he's a little bit faster than you. He's like an inch taller than you, and he's a little bit stronger. And you feel like you've been through a hurricane with your buddies, and you look over and he's not even like sweating. I mean, I think he's a player. I think the right opportunity for a player like him, he absolutely could have a career as a starting quarterback. It could be here. I hope it is. He's got to stay healthy, and other things have to go well for him.
Sure.
But he has plus arm strength. He's accurate. He can put his head down and run, and he makes quick decisions. And those things, if you have those things, you're gonna be doing just fine. He just needs the reps.
So you think that from what you've heard, he was just really both physically and mentally beat up that final year.
His senior year, yes.
Yeah. No matter what happened in the All-Star games, and it took him a while to kind of get his head straight. And because the way this team is going, he's not going to get a short leash, is he? Unless, of course, it's just too big for him. They're actually going to let him hopefully start the whole year as long as he shows that he can actually make plays.
Without a doubt. I mean, Jacoby Brissett should have the absolute cleanest jersey in the league for 17 weeks. There should be, unless he gets hurt, unless he comes or starts throwing 5 interceptions a game.
Yeah.
I think if he throws 4 interceptions in a game, I think you see Jacoby Brissett in that game. Then I think you see.
But then he starts again next week. Yeah.
Starts again the next week. Yeah.
What does he have to do? What is it that the staff has talked about that really he needs to do to improve his game?
I mean, he's got the quick decisions, and the biggest thing he has to do, I think, is the thing that everyone on that team has to do, and adjust to Eric Bieniemy. So Eric Bieniemy comes in. It's a kind of a West Coast style offense. So
does that fit? Does that fit for Howell? Is this a good fit?
Oh yes, without a doubt, it fits. He can release the ball quickly. He has the ability to find people fast. He can throw it for a mile. He can throw it through you. He's got that kind of a cannon arm. He has the ability. He's mobile. He has the ability to run.
Yep.
To throw. So he can be a little elusive in the pocket, and he's going to have to be that because our offensive line. We'll see. But at the end of the day, I think getting adjusted to Eric Bieniemy this offseason, and the whole offense is now having a whole offseason. And this guy's a disciplinarian. If you're not doing it, if you're not, to the detail, doing what he wants you to do, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. You get your ass chewed out right there in front of everybody. And he has the credibility to walk into a new place and be that guy. He's stood on the sidelines of Super Bowls, and he's worked with Patrick Mahomes. So I think, and I think Sam Howell is up to that task.
Well, I think it would be great. Look, the league needs it. The more young quarterbacks that can be successful, the better. So, because we all know what happens is if he doesn't succeed and the team doesn't play well, then you get all the talk about, Washington being one of those teams that's going to try to do what they can to get the first pick in the draft, or how can we get the next quarterback? But
Arizona's got a lock on it, Greg. I mean, a lock. I don't think anyone can catch them in the race for who's worst. I believe they have 2 picks in the top 5 as well, so they can.
So you think they'll be starting over?
Arizona?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
I think.
You think he's going to play baseball, or do you think he's going to get traded?
Caleb?
Yeah.
Oh, Caleb Williams. Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray.
Oh, God. If he's smart, he'll play baseball at this point. I mean, I think he can play quarterback all he wants. He's getting, $200+ million to go. So there's a lot of reasons to keep the shoulder pads and helmet on. But the Arizona, they draft quarterbacks in the first whenever they can. They draft a quarterback at the top of the draft.
Yeah,
now. But here's my prediction, Greg. Caleb Williams becomes the next John Elway, Eli Manning, and when Arizona is sitting there, my prediction is Caleb Williams says, "I won't play for you. Trade the pick, move me. There's no way I'm reporting to Arizona."
Look, look. The kid's talented. I don't know. We still have a full year to see him on tape before we start putting him in the category of, Peyton Manning. One of these guys.
Sure. At the college level, he's earning the chops. He's got to,
But the thing is, that's Lincoln Riley too. Lincoln Riley makes it so easy for these quarterbacks. He's such a great coach. The offense, very good quarterback. but I've just seen it before. Let's just put it
Well,
that way. I need to see more. I'm
I got to
not
give you full
100%
disclosure.
sold. I'm
I
not saying
know
he's not going to be a good quarterback. I'm just 100% sold that he's going to be this Peyton Manning, because there's that level. Are you a Peyton Manning type guy, an Andrew Luck type pick, or are you Bryce Young type pick? Which is fine, nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But where are you? And I don't know if I'm ready to put him into that Peyton Manning kind of pick yet.
Sure. Well, and Peyton Manning, he played 4 years. I mean, he graduated.
Oh, he did. He played 4 years. He went the distance, and I remember it was Manning and Luck. I think people really looked at, and since then, I don't know who was it. Oh, of course we had what's his name from LSU. That was a Burrow. That was I know people didn't put him that. I mean, it was close, but we all kind of knew how good Joe Burrow was. So I'm not even sure I'd put him up next to Joe Burrow yet. Because Joe Burrow to me was special.
I got him up there, Greg. He was the very first big game I covered in high school that I did the play-by-play for. No.
Oh, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he went to Gonzaga right here in D.C. And I've covered him since his freshman year of high school, so I'm a little bit in the tank.
Dude, I mean, hey, if he's a local kid, maybe Washington does whatever they can.
I mean, again, it's Arizona. He's Arizona's to deal.
I'm not. Look, well, we got a full season.
I got him on the clock.
Kyler Murray, if he has a good year, all that goes away.
Okay.
So,
but he won't even be playing, right? I mean, he's not going to start the season. They're going to start the season with Colt McCoy, right?
Well, I haven't heard anything like that. Why? Was that what you're hearing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Things got that bad.
Well, I mean, we'll have to see if Kyler Murray is fully 100% healthy.
That's different. Yes, that's different. So, yeah, no question. That could be an issue. Like we just talked about. He could be
very hurt.
Play baseball. So, but again, it's a long season. But first things first, and that's getting Sam Howell the opportunity where he says, no, we don't need Caleb Williams. I'm the man. And to have a 5th-round draft pick actually give you 3 more years of relief at the quarterback contract position would be awesome. Taking a look at the rest of the roster. So, by the way, they're going to keep 2 quarterbacks? Just 2?
Without a doubt. I can see us keeping 3.
Who do you think that third would be?
I mean, I think we have Jake Fromm.
Fromm and Demarat? Who the hell is that?
Well, now I think they changed the rules so you can keep an emergency third quarterback. So, I mean, I think, most every team should probably take advantage of that. I don't know why you wouldn't. So I'd say because of that, I'd say we have 3. Also because we have an unproven guy, career backup, and so why wouldn't you have always have a young kid ready to get a snap or 2 if the time comes.
I'm gonna pop up the depth chart here so everybody can see from our lads. And
remember, Greg, Kirk Cousins, not a flashy draft pick. Third round, I think. Right.
No, you're right.
And he's one of the best pros. And I don't, people can dicker over whether or not they think how great he is, but you can certainly win games with him. And and he would have broken the bank salary cap wise. He hasn't broken the bank salary cap wise for anyone. I mean, if you can get a guy, if Sam Howell can take that kind of a road, we'd be doing just fine.
That would be huge because it doesn't happen a lot.
Nope.
So that would be big. And then you take a look at now. Robinson was obviously a really nice addition. So having your number 1 running back set, and you got Gibson. They drafted Rodriguez.
Rodriguez is going to play?
Okay, so they really. Do you think Rodriguez will get? I mean, how's the rotation going to look?
I think as long as he doesn't get shot this offseason, Brian Robinson will be our starting running back week 1. And when after he recovered last year, he went straight from getting shot in the leg to running people over. I mean, I think that's who he is. He's a first and second down running back easily. We remember that Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver for the most part. Kind of they called him special sauce at Memphis, and he was a guy who could catch. And you look at what they did with Jarrett McKinnon last year in Kansas City. I'd like to think that would be a manner in which he's used. And Rodriguez is going to be that kind of guy. When you see him with the ball, he's going to be a fan favorite. He's going to be a football fan favorite. think he's going to do some nasty things with the ball in his hands. I think he's going to get carries. I think Brian Robinson gets the lion's share of carries. I think you're still going to hand it off to Antonio Gibson, and there's going to be parts of the game, maybe between the 30s or between the 40s, when you let Rodriguez go.
So you think that, like, let's just say if Robinson were to miss a game, Rodriguez probably, do you think he still becomes like more of the number one running back and Gibson keeps his role? Do you think they work it that way? Or is Gibson still the guy where they feel like, yeah, if something happens to Robinson and we need a guy to carry the ball 20, 25 times, we're giving it to Gibson?
Gibson has shown he can carry the ball that many times in the game. Whether that's what you want or not remains to be seen. My understanding is this spring he's been moved around considerably.
Chess piece.
Yes.
Okay.
And as long if you can, so that's an important role.
Yeah.
And if Rodriguez can handle some carries and allow Gibson to stay in his role, you want to minimize changing roles.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think Rodriguez, to me, strikes me as the kind of player who's very capable of handling a load that they want to give him.
How many? Who's going to be fighting for that final spot? Do they keep 4 running backs? And if so, who do you think is going to make it?
I 3 or 4 running backs is a popular debate, especially now we got the extra quarterback that I think I'd rather keep a quarterback and put stash a running back or 2 on the practice squad. I don't know that there's anybody that I'm dying, that would be.
So Jonathan Williams, Jared Patterson, you don't care
Jared
about
Patterson,
those
also
guys.
a local guy. So, well, I mean, I think those guys, I hate to say things like you can pick up a Jonathan Williams or Jared Patterson.
You kind of can.
But you kind of can.
Yeah. All right. Tight end. So what's the deal with Logan Thomas? Because it's looking like he's not going to be the guy that we thought he could be. And I know he's had injuries. Totally get that.
Yep.
But he's still right now the number 1 guy. So do they still have faith that he can still kind of give them what they thought he was going to be able to give them a couple years ago? Or is this just a position that they just couldn't upgrade this offseason?
I didn't sense that they were wasting too many resources trying to chase down an upgrade.
Okay.
I think the Logan Thomas situation is that, he got super banged up. And when he got back on the field, I mean, he looked bad. He was getting blown off the line by defensive ends. He couldn't even get into his pattern a couple of times. He looked incredibly slow before catching and after catching. And it was kind of like, oh my God, like, is this really happening to this? This guy's our tight end.
Yeah.
All accounts say, and the team has said, even over the winter, here's a guy who's finally showing signs of his body recovering from, the injuries that he sustained. Maybe he shouldn't have even been on the field some of the games he was last year. But he's a former quarterback. He's a big body, a good athlete, and the position is just so important, especially in Bieniemy's offense. I think
that's true.
I think he's our best chance to have a dominant. So
he's still the guy that they're hoping
he's our best
for.
chance to have a guy at the position.
So Cole Turner hasn't really, and it's only been 1 year, but they're not looking at Cole Turner as a future number 1.
I mean, I think Cole Turner's going to be on the field. I think they're going to find ways. I mean, I know, if you, again, kind of looking back at what offense Kansas City run, you saw Fortson last year come on, late. The tight ends, in the Bieniemy offense are important. And, for a ground game that has to succeed for this other stuff, Cole Turner can get in there and find a spot if he's willing to be a good blocker and also catch some balls. He hasn't materialized yet as a guy who you can really call a number 1 tight end.
Sure. He's a rookie last year, so
he's going to get a chance.
Yeah. Okay. So you think they're set there with the top 3, with Thomas, Bates, and Turner.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all they keep. None of those other guys are really, you think they keep 3 or 4?
I would probably say 3, but we had a guy, I think, Armani
Rogers,
and he was a guy who we liked. They had a bunch of plays for him last year. Handoff plays plays where he threw it. I mean, he can do a lot of things. He also ran a good route. But I believe he tore his ACL, or he's injured and he's out indefinitely. So
he is okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So let's move on to wide receiver. and
Yes.
the top three are set, so that's
Top three
good.
are set.
Samuel, Dotson, and McLaurin, and that's a very as good as a three that you can have in the league. So
I think
they have to
so.
be pretty excited about that. But after that, now what's the deal with De'Ami Brown? Because
It's
he
good.
seems like I mean, you just keep waiting. It's like, all right, is it coming? Is it coming? Or is this guy just overrated and he's never going to make it?
I think he's a player. I mean, I don't. He's not going to take Terry McLaurin or
No,
Dotson's
sure.
spot or anything like that. But I think he has two things going for him. I love what he's done on special teams. When he's been on the field and he's had a chance to make plays, he's made plays. He's a gunner. He's made some awesome special teams tackles. So I always like to see a player who is not getting a chance, but he's doing other
Yes.
things. Um, I don't, he certainly hasn't had the targets that a player of his caliber coming out of college, anyways, would want. But last year he still had the ability to get deep, and he has good hands, and he's playing with his college quarterback.
I was just about to ask you that. Yeah.
There's obviously something there. They've been working out this off season with all the guys. So I think he's still got some upside to him, but I don't think he has much or any downside at this point because what we're asking him to do is be the number 4 guy.
But do you still? But is there still hope? Do you think, from what you've seen, that maybe this is the year because of his relationship with Howell that he can actually maximize his abilities as a receiver?
Absolutely. I mean, again, it'll come down to targets. I mean, you always look at a guy like Curtis Samuel, and he's had some.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
he's had a hard time staying on the field the last few years, which moves a guy like De'Ami Brown, right onto the field on first, second, and third down, a whole lot more. And you assume teams are going to try to take Terry McLaurin away from you, and so you should be looking to guys like De'Ami Brown, to pick up some of that slack, but. I think the expectation for him is for the opportunity that he's given. Yes, I think he's going to shine.
Okay,
but I don't think I don't see a Pro Bowl. In his future.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right, and then so we know those 4. 5, you think they keep, or 6? And it really, I mean, I don't even. You tell me. I mean, is the 5 even on this team?
So what is Cam Sims, right? Let's see, we got
what is up with Cam Sims? Is he's not on the team anymore?
Yeah, he is. I'm trying to think. He might have got some money, but I mean, when you ask if he's
Cam injury Sims, money,
yeah, well, we're trying to replace a guy like him who always seemed to come up again with the random throws that he got. He always seemed to come up big, but I tell you what, the Byron Pringle, Dax Milne. I think what you're going to find is Dax Milne is our number 5, he's a guy that's been getting chances. He's been a guy that's been getting throws. He's fast. He can play the slot. He can return if you want him to be a returner. He was our return man last year. I think that's our number 5. But I don't think we have like a Cam Sims replacement necessarily and all those other names.
So none of those guys. Yeah. I mean, I've got So we got like 6, 8 guys battling for that last spot, I guess. None of those guys jump off the board to you.
No, I think those are the kind of guys who, guys like me are watching the fourth quarter of preseason games.
Okay.
And falling in love with one of those guys randomly. Okay. And we'll see if they get
fair enough. Yep. So who knows? Maybe the number 5 receiver isn't on the team right now. That's what you love about, once the cuts come in, you never know who's going to sneak on the roster from another team. Yep. All right. Offensive line. So things were pretty good in the offensive line not too long ago. But right now, first of all, what happened to Roulier?
He was injured. Chase Roulier was injured, and he had a hard time getting back on the field. He was owed some money.
So it's another injury settlement?
Yeah, I think I never know how that works. He cleared a physical, and they were, but yeah, he was a well-liked, well-respected professional offensive lineman on our team.
Yeah,
he was strong. He was competent, and where he may not have been jumped off the page for the best centers in the league, but he got the job done, and they wanted him. They wanted him to come back. They wanted him back last year. They were hoping he was going to be the guy this year. And you can always tell when a guy like him is about to be done with his career when you get guys in shorts and t-shirts running around in February and March, and the coach will say, "Man, Chase Roullier looked great today. Did you see Chase Roullier? I mean, he looks 10 years younger. He's moving around. And as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, he's done. They're talking him up. They're trying to make him sound better than he is, but he's gone.
Okay.
So he's gone. Andrew Norwell's gone. I think you definitely have between Nick Gates at center and Andrew Wiley at right tackle. Those guys, and then of course Chris Paul, at left guard.
Well, all right. So Chris Paul. So that's the big question, isn't it? Is he ready to take over that job?
I sure hope so. He's a 24-year-old kid. He's 6'4", 325. You got to hope that you can get someone like that to the point where they can contribute. The thing about Chris Paul and Chris Paul at left guard and Sam Cosmi at right guard. With Eric Bieniemy's offense, he's really looking for athleticism. For the most part, they move around a lot. They're asked to be athletic, nimble, agile. They're not just maulers. I mean, they got to be able to fight in a phone booth, but they also have to be able to move. And so that style is different. And so it'll be interesting to see how Cosmi and Paul, if that's a good fit for them. I think it is. But dancing bears, man, you never know what's going to happen when you put them up on that beach ball.
Well, the rookie Stromberg, because I can't imagine. I mean, you're going to sign Gates and then you're going to draft a third-round center. Does Stromberg go into camp trying to win a job at left guard as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, though, what I heard, and I could be maybe remembering incorrectly, but I think I heard they're going to try to keep him a center.
Okay.
I think they want him to be a center. They want to teach him how to be center. They want to develop him as a center.
Okay.
Gates, he's a well-respected and good player, but he's also had injury problems recently, the last year. So I think they want Stromberg to be ready to play center. And I think they do have some swing, offensive linemen in the interior. Sadiq Charles is a guy who's been around for a couple years. Keaton Sutherland. Some of these guys, they've had they've had a chance to work together. So I think those are the guys they're going to. Sadiq Charles specifically, look to fill in at guard if they need one.
And what about Daniels? So they draft Daniels, and again, you draft a talented player like that in round 4.
Yep.
Is he going to somehow end up now? Charles Leno, does that mean Leno is done after this year with the team, and they're hoping Daniels will be the left tackle in 2024? Or what is the idea of drafting Daniels about?
I think this is the investment, that I think that Ron Rivera is making in the team. It's offensive line and defensive line. And, Charles Leno he's an above average left tackle. And if he's healthy, we're doing just fine there. But I don't think without Daniel, I don't think we have much to go to at that tackle spot. And I don't think you want to be in a position where you don't have a guy you think might be able to play. And we've seen that, it's an every team problem of Redskins, and
sure
have been bitten by, we're typically that stat when they say like how many offensive line combinations have played this season. We've been among the league leaders in that over the last 5 years. So you want to, you don't want to get to the point where you bring guys off the street. I have high hopes for Daniel. I think, he's certainly a player who could make it at the NFL level. But I mean, we've seen second and third round guards and tackles that we've drafted over the last 7 to 10 years that haven't even been able to get on the field competently.
Well, I mean, it looks like on paper the team is in good shape depth-wise at tackle, but it's that interior. Once you get past Cosmi, really, there's still a lot of questions. So, but again, like you said, it makes a lot of sense whether a guy's going to start this year or not. You have to start bringing in some young linemen on the team and replenishing that very important position. Okay, so taking a look now, let's move over to the defensive side. And on the defensive line, so what's the contractual situation, the long-term situation with these four guys?
So we signed Jonathan Allen to an extension 2 years ago. We signed Deron Payne to an extension last year. They're basically making 19, 20 million bucks a year each.
So both will be around for at least another couple of years.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's by far, in my estimation, like the absolute strength of our entire team is those two guys at the middle of the field for our defense. It's our identity. It's who we are. Those two guys are alpha dogs, and we go how they go. Ultimately, I think that's the way it's going to be. Montez Sweat is in a contract year. We have of course the big the guy with the most to prove, Chase Young, on the other side. We did not pick up his 5th-year option. He has everything to prove this year. And it's not just about regaining his form as a defensive rookie of the year in 2020. He got away with a lot on his athleticism, not so much on his discipline, but he got away with it good. I mean, he won games for us. We had interceptions, touchdowns, sacks, all of it. In his 2nd year before he got hurt, he was pretty bad. He was undisciplined. He wasn't in his spot he was supposed to be in. He was exposed by opposing offenses, and it showed when no-name backups played for him down the stretch when he was off the field. So he has to prove not just that he can get back physically because of the injury to his knee, but also that he can play ball. I mean, you should be able to take advantage when you have Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, and Anthony and Jonathan Allen playing next to you. You should find yourself, at least on occasion, against some single teams. The action's going to come to you. You got to show it.
So, more the logical scenario is Sweat gets his deal. And what do you think about Young? What's your guess on what? Because there's a lot of money, and all of a sudden, not a lot of teams throw big deals at all four starting defensive linemen. That's pretty rare. They have to put the money elsewhere on the team usually. But hey, I mean, if Chase Young has an incredible season, then maybe you should pay him.
Think about how much more important it is for Sam Howell to be a good player for us for another 2 years. Because if he comes back as your starter, you got no problem giving $20 million to both guys. I think if Chase Young has like a baller year and everyone's like, this is the guy, I think he gets franchised for the 1-year tag. And then I think you go into negotiations with Montez and you try to sign him to a long-term deal. I mean, at that point in time, you do have a lot of money wrapped up in the defensive line, but it's all layered. Then all of a sudden now not everyone's coming off at the same time contractually. And I always say that's 4 starting positions. And in our case, it's the 4 most important starting positions on our entire team. It's who we say we are. When you talk, it's Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, like the 2 of the hardest nosed defensive players. Ron played for the '85 Bears. I mean, these guys they care about beating you up in the trenches.
Yep.
If that's who they say we are, then I have no problem putting $20 million contracts on these guys.
Okay. And it looks like the team has a good amount of depth as well, or at least guys that have some experience. Out of those guys, and then KJ Henry and Andre Jones were drafted. So who are the guys? Well, Mathis was a 2nd-round pick last year.
Yes, that is the guy. That's the guy.
He's the guy to keep an eye on.
He got hurt on his first play last year, and it was sad. I mean, all the play. I mean, everyone kind of lost it. It was like, oh my, like first play. He's a big dude. He's strong. He absolutely can play at this level. If he is as good as we think he is, that's huge. To be able to have be able to rotate guys in the middle of your defensive line is huge. I think James Smith-Williams has absolutely played his butt off when he's been around. I think he's a guy to watch. And then F.A. Obata, he's got some age on him. He's been around for a while. I think he's 31 years old. He's bounced around the league. I think he's 6'6", 6'6", 270.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys who are 6'6", 270, but at the same time, if you have guys like Andre Jones and KJ Henry that show up in camp and all of a sudden, pretty darn good, and you think that they can be on the field, Obata becomes maybe somebody you see hit the wire. But I also know that Ron Rivera really likes Obata. He likes the veterans. I think they have some history in the league together. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes the team because as a function of some of these younger guys like KJ Henry and Andre Jones, if they can show out in August, it's better for everybody. And 31-year-old defensive end. I mean, there is a bit of measured, when you build the roster. Are we going with the Greg DePalma, the season doesn't count, let's just put all our 20-year-old kids on the field, or which is perfectly fine for some teams, but you might say, certainly coaches like Rivera, was going to say, hey, well, I could use a couple 31-year-olds, and especially
sure, you have to, yeah. But he's going to battle with what, Tuhill as well. These are guys that are going to be fighting for those last spots. Last year.
Yeah, and these are guys who had a chance to play because Chase Young wasn't on the field. Yeah. So that's another thing. When they came on the field, Tuhill, Smith Williams, Obata, they were playing their spot. And all of a sudden things worked a little bit better. And it's not a knock on Chase Young. When you're 6'5", 260 and a monster athlete, and you're probably going to think you can do things that maybe you shouldn't be trying at the NFL level. But those other guys, they were where they were supposed to be, and they made plays for us.
And Ridgeway, that was a nice pickup, especially coming from the Cowboys. And then the team also signed Anderson.
Yes.
So, yeah, it looks like the line is pretty stacked. So it should be some good competition at the end of that group for the final spots. Linebacker. So the team plays two linebackers, right?
I thought we were like a one linebacker system for a while. But
they should.
It's thin. It's super. It's like almost thinner than my hair. It's insane. It's I don't know. It's tough. I mean, you think that playing behind that defensive line, you can get some numbers out of a lot of different players. And we did. Holcomb, got a bunch of tackles. I think this new guy, that they just brought in, the
Barton?
Cody Barton. Yeah, he's a player. He can make tackles.
Weren't you surprised they didn't add anybody in the draft?
I am. Here's what. Since we're talking about the linebacker position, you mentioned it at tight end. Maybe you mentioned it at wide receiver about maybe he's not on a guy is not on the roster yet. We have some money. We've freed up some money with Norwell and Rouillet and a couple other these guys who aren't on the team anymore. I fully do expect the Rivera to bring in a guy who is going to be a veteran and likely at the linebacker position. It's either linebacker. Yeah. Actually, I think it's either going to be linebacker or guard. Those two positions, to me, that's the spot where we might try to spend our money after some cuts are made.
Okay,
but we're thin at linebacker. But Greg, Jamin Davis, people just want to be down on this guy. They just want to be down on him.
Why is that?
He's a first-round draft pick, and he wasn't Micah Parsons his rookie year by any stretch, and he wasn't Micah Parsons in his second year either, if we're being honest. But if you look at his production when he came into the league, Del Rio and Rivera loaded him up. They gave him middle linebacker, weak linebacker, and Mike linebacker responsibilities.
Okay,
he was responsible for learning it all, and he struggled. He played on his back feet. He was late to plays. He didn't play instinctive. But last year he had over 100 tackles. He was defending passes. He got into the backfield. He hit the quarterback. He had some sacks. The evolution was super evident.
Okay.
And he's a big boy. He's fast. He's strong. He is the kind of player who, if our defensive line is doing what they're supposed to do, and he comes in and takes the next step in his third year, I mean, that's where you start to see highlights of our defense on SportsCenter on Sunday night.
They still have that on ESPN Sunday night. Is there? So really, the depth though, there's nobody that sticks out. It's you don't even know if any of these guys are going to make the team, or I'm assuming one or two of these guys is going to be prominent on special teams.
Kaliki Hudson will make the team. They like him. He's been around for a while. He's a Michigan kid.
Okay.
He's a special teams guy, and again, he's in a great spot numbers wise. David Mayo, I want to say he went to Texas State, or he's he's come a long way. He's basically like a walk-on linebacker for us, and he's been on our team for 3 seasons. So I think he'll stay.
Okay.
And that's still only 4 linebackers.
Well, when you play 2, you don't probably need much more than that. To tell you
No,
the truth.
no.
So, all right, and then the secondary.
Yep.
So Kendall Fuller,
Bro.
he's the man, right? He's the
man.
number 1 dude. And then you go out, and this is where the draft got interesting for the team. With a lot of people were a little bit surprised that Forbes went as early as he did, but the team liked them. So, what did you think about those 2 picks, Forbes and Martin?
I loved the going after the secondary. I think we even just looking. Why not just keep going back to Kansas City? And I always people who are doing it well, people who are doing it right. Why not look at what they did? They've been churning that secondary for quite some time over the last 2 or 3 years. If you look at the moves they have made between drafting and free agency, never afraid to bring in new blood to that secondary. And I think that's what we did. We have 2 young safeties in Derek Forrest and Cam Curl, and they're an above average duo.
They're underrated, aren't they?
They really are. They're hitters. They can cover, they can catch, they can tackle. But Emmanuel Forbes having a chance to play across from Kendall Fuller, you can say 2 things. He's going to get chances. No, people aren't going to try to avoid him. At least until he shows.
That's true.
And and he puts his hands on the ball, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he does stuff with it. So he's a playmaker on defense. It'll be I think he'll be fun to watch. And it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to adversity, because he'll no doubt experience it. But again, when the identity of your team is defensive line, and these guys are getting the quarterback, it makes the job of the secondary that much easier.
That's right.
And that's where guys like Kendall Fuller and Benjamin St. Juste coming back for a second year. He's a big boy with a lot of reach. I have high hopes for him. And really kind of Holmes and Reeves and Butler and some of these guys, I like them all. But Jartavius Martin, the guy we drafted in the 2nd round from Illinois, he's interesting. So he played safety at Illinois, but he will not be playing safety for us. They're going to keep Curl and Forrest in the back. And right now they're thinking Martin will be that you got it down as like a slot guy, essentially, a nickel cornerback, and all the nickel and dime packages, which in this league is like 80% or more of the downs you're playing. He's he's not the tallest guy in the world. I think he's like 5'11". I think that's his actual. You don't get the program height. I don't think he's 6 foot, but ran a 4.4 40, and he jumped over 11 feet in his broad jump. And those two, if you watch the combine and you look at the way guys get scouted, that's a rare combination. You don't see that almost anywhere. There's almost no guys who can do that. He's a freak. And for him to get on the field quickly and play for us, I think he's got to show it again this summer. But I think he's going to be on the field.
That's going to be important. 2nd round draft pick, you better play.
That's right.
So they might have 2 rookies there, more than likely, in the secondary. So as far as the backups, is there one guy that you have hopes for, whether it's Holmes or Butler or any of these guys, or St. Juste?
Yeah, it's Benjamin St. Juste. He's got the experience. He started for us last year, and he's been banged up a little bit, but he's a big boy. The thing about him, he's 6'3". He's 6'3". He's over 200. He's a big body. He's shown that he can cover, and I think he's going to be of those names you listed. I think that's the guy that'll need to step up this year.
Okay, and overall, are there any young players? Because so far, I mean, usually there's a player or 2 that gets signed, and there's a lot of rookies that were signed after the draft on the team.
Yep.
But I'll be honest with you, none of them stick out to me. So whether it's a guy that was drafted middle round late last year, or one of these, late or, free agent rookies that were signed this year, is there anybody that we should be keeping an eye on?
Oh, well, I mean, the 5th rounder, KJ Henry, I think he kind of fell in the draft. I think people didn't really see the special in his game necessarily that would cause him to be drafted, higher than the 5th round. But There's plenty of people who I've talked to who think that he's going to make a difference when he gets on the field. I think if you're talking about guys coming from last year's draft, I mean, Fedarian Mathis is a classic case.
Okay.
He was a second round pick, but he played one play.
Yep.
So I think, really you think about, you're getting Mathis back, you're getting Chase Young back, you're getting Forbes, you're getting Jartavius Martin, Brian Robinson, should be fully healed from all of his injuries. And, so there's a lot of in-house stuff that, not even counting, anyone we may have signed from somewhere else, not to mention the least of which, Sam Howell, kind of an unproven, quarterback. I mean, if you're, I think the gambling, the thing about, I get so excited about this. I see all these young players. I think we have a talent, youth, and speed, and it's just got to work together. But, you just got to go as far as the gambling line to see that no one's buying it, outside of at all. I mean, 6.5 wins.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what we opened with. Nobody believes this Sam Howell stuff. They still don't believe it, I think. Right. Until they actually maybe see a report, first day at camp tomorrow. And wait a second, they're for real?
Yeah.
He's going to be the starting quarterback this year?
It's happening.
Until they see that, they're not going to believe it.
Get your money in.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dynasty fantasy football.
You better believe it.
That'd be a nice little late round pick to keep an eye on. Speaking of fantasy football, Brian Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Dotson. Who's the best guy? Who's the best value?
I think they're going to run Brian Robinson. I think he's going to.
Robinson should be he's legit.
Robinson is a legit football player. He's a beast. He can catch. He runs people over, and he's got a little bit of speed with the ball in his hands. I'll be interested to see. He comes out firing. I got to believe Terry McLaurin. He's a proven commodity. I mean, if you like. Oh, yeah. 10 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, and 100 catches. If that's something that floats your boat, that's what you're going to get.
Sure.
But the thing about Jahan Dotson I find fascinating. I mean, he had 7 touchdowns last year. He didn't blow it up in yards and catches, but he had a lot. And when we drafted him, people were scratching their heads just a little bit. He wasn't the sexiest name, Penn State receiver coming in, but of all the receivers who came into the draft at last year's draft class, he was ranked first in hands. His ability to catch the ball, just pure catching ability. He was consensus number 1 wide receiver, and we saw it play out every single week when he was on the field. He got he got contested balls. If he touched the ball, he caught it. He ran a good route, but he brings the ball in, and he had a tendency to do it in the end zone last year. So. From a fantasy perspective, he's not going to go high at all. But if you can get him in the middle rounds, I mean, he's going to make your team better.
And look, it's all going to be Sam Howell's got the opportunity.
That's right.
So he's got the weapons. We'll see if they protect them. It should be a fun team to watch. And
I think so. I think they'll be fun.
Yeah. Do you think, by the way, now that Snyder's gone, do you think that there'll be more fans?
Yeah, so closing the loop on all that. I think that I was a guy. I was in FedEx Field. I was in that parking lot at 6 a.m. every Sunday for 20 years. I spent the whole day there with my buddies. We had we did it up, and it was great. And we loved our community. We had a huge fan group. Hawks Haven really came out of that. I mean, everything's positive stemmed from our positive interactions with each other. But it was just so muddied by the experience that Dan Snyder provided us over those 20 years. And it drove a lot of us away. A lot of people stopped going to games. Yeah. And I think the things that are true about Josh Harris becoming the owner is, immediately it feels, I can enjoy a team that loses. I can have fun watching it. I don't feel dirty. Yeah. Because I'm the guy who's in the owner's suite. Yeah. But FedEx is still a dump. Yeah. It's still dumping sewage on people. They're still serving bad hot dogs that you still can't go to the bathroom. We're going to get a new stadium out of this, but it ain't coming for 3 or 4 years. And
where's it going to be?
I always tell people to, pump the brakes. FedEx is they're going to put some money in it, is my understanding, over the next month and try to get it back. The short answer to your question is yes. The first game's already sold out. There's some sold out games coming. And I think there are going to be a predominantly Redskins fans in a way that it hasn't been. I think we've been a really good spot for other teams' fans to come. I think that'll change a little bit, but I just want everyone enjoy it. Be happy that we have Josh Harris. Be happy that there's this new feeling in the air. But FedEx is still FedEx. It's a dump.
Well, look, it's all about winning.
That's
and
right.
Now that the owner's gone, the trash is gone. If
That's
the
right.
team can get off to a good start, it makes then all of a sudden, if the team's winning, it's like, well, yeah, it's a dump, but it's our dump.
It's our dump.
Yeah, but when the everything around it is a dump, then it's just a dump. This place sucks. I hate going there. But when you're winning, it's our dump.
Yeah,
So,
and it sucks. It sucks talking about owners. I've spent way too much time over the last 15 years because I was, I loved the first couple of years of, we were totally snowed over by this guy. He bought up all the free agents on the market, and he was, Mr. Let's, win now. But it's like, I want to cover football. You know what I mean? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about Jahan Dotson's ability to get open in the intermediate to deep parts of the field. I want to talk about Brian Robinson in between the tackles. We could talk about wins and losses, or the development of Sam Howell. Is Chase Young good or
sure,
be good or not? All that stuff is so much more fun to talk about and be a fan of. And when so much oxygen is being sucked out of the room by talking about, a guy like Dan Snyder, I just want to leave Josh Harris alone for a while. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if he's going to be a good owner or not. And I'm guarded a little bit now, after with this experience.
Yeah.
We'll let him get settled and stuff. But I'm so looking forward to, even in the preseason, I'm just so looking forward to watching football and saying, and just caring about what's happening in that part of the thing, knowing that maybe we have a chance that Monday through Saturday, taking care of itself, and we can actually focus on football.
Yep, it's fun. It should be fun again. And by the way, I forgot to ask: are they all set at kicker? Are their kicking situation going to return?
Yeah, so obviously Tressway or punter, he's not going anywhere. Joey Sly, I think we signed Michael Badgley.
Yeah, so that's going to actually be competition.
Rivera likes Sly. I think Sly's got a big leg. I think he can. He's a guy that's going to kick it through the uprights. For kickoffs for the most part. So he's gonna. I think that he'll. I think Sly will have the inside track. But I mean, I kind of wanted. I was pushing for Robbie Gould initially when he was leaving San Francisco, but I found out quickly that one topic that's less popular than talking about the owner is talking about free agent kickers. So we just were like, hey, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah,
I'll just leave that one alone.
That's not a big topic. No. All right. So that'll wrap it up, Ken. Looking forward to talking to you during the season about this team, especially if they do get off to a good start.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be about, as we know, it's just like any team. It's about the quarterback position and whether or not, and look, we know he's going to struggle, but whether or not he can make enough positive plays to maybe give the fans some hope this season. I think it would be great. Like I said, the better young quarterback talent, the better for the NFL. He's got the ability. Now let's hope that he can go ahead and accomplish it under Eric Bieniemy, and that could be a really good story in the league this season. So enjoy yourself, and then hopefully when we talk, if we don't talk before the season begins, hopefully there'll be something good to talk. I tell you what, if they get off to a good start that first week or two, and Sam Howell gets off to a good start, you and I will talk.
I can't wait.
So I'll be very interested. So awesome. I appreciate it, Ken. And hogshaven.com, and you've got the YouTube channel. How often are you on the YouTube channel?
We'll be live tonight. Thank God it's Tuesday. Every Tuesday night we're live, and then we got variety. If you're subscribed to the channel for free, obviously you see we're all over the place. You never know where you might find us popping up at a bar or at the sidelines of a high school football game.
You're as local as they get.
That's the way to be.
That's it. All right, Ken, great job. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg.